So Prince Alwaleed he's a Saudi billionaire and he's a member of the royal family. The royal family is huge. There's thousands of members. So he is related to the king, but not like in the kingly line of succession as we think of it. But a prominent member and very, very entrepreneurial from a young age. He attended college in the US and started investing here and there in Saudi Arabia. But the reason we all talk about him and know him is that he made a bet on Citibank back in the 80s when it was really struggling. That bet did tremendously well. For a long time, he was Citi's biggest shareholder. He went on to form relationships with Rupert Murdoch, with Bill Gates. He bought a stake in the Four Seasons. He bought a stake in News Corp. He had a stake in Disney. He funded Euro Disney. All over, and also a very prominent hotel investor with some amazing properties. And just like a larger-than-life character. He was a fixture, like you said, always showing up on financial television.
Yeah.
Loved to be quoted. He always traveled with a motorcade. Like, he had an entourage with him. Incredibly lavish lifestyle.
And then pretty much overnight, November 2017, everything changed.
Everything changed. So in November 2017, this was about a year and a half after King Salman became king of Saudi Arabia, and his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, was really just basically running the show in Saudi Arabia. Incredibly young and ambitious guy, and he locked up hundreds of the elite of Saudi Arabia, not just businessmen but also governors, government ministers, prominent people, philanthropists, business people. Detained them at the Ritz, and that included Prince Alwaleed, which was a big deal because Prince Alwaleed at that point, like kind of prior to this moment, was really like for the US, maybe the most famous Saudi. He was what a lot of investors thought of, or Wall Street thought of, if you mentioned Saudi Arabia, because Saudi too was so private and closed off for so long. Like, it was difficult to crack. They weren't investing. Like, it is nothing like it is today. Alwaleed was detained there for 83 days. Nobody really heard from him. They took everybody's phones. After 83 days, he was released, and Bloomberg actually had the first interview with him when he came out. He said, everything's good. He didn't look so great. He was quite thin, but he assured us everything's good. He said he'd struck an agreement with the government. He couldn't say anything about it, but just said, business is normal. And it was like, oh, okay, all right, business as usual. But he has a very, very big, prominent investment company called Kingdom Holding, which has stakes all over the world. And he pretty much went quiet, after he got out of the Ritz. He gave that one interview and then didn't nearly have the same public profile that he had before.
What I love is you say the terms of the agreement were secret, but it was clear the Saudi government had a close interest in his portfolio with his stakes in hotels, aviation, and entertainment, all sectors overlapping with Vision 2030. So what do folks say? That they wanted to exactly know what he was invested in? Or
so
what do we know?
So we know, he owned 95% of Kingdom Holding, this big publicly traded conglomerate before. And in 2022, the Public Investment Fund, or PIF, bought roughly 18% of it. So they actively had a stake at this point. They definitely had an interest before. And I think a big reason that his investment empire was interesting to them is that he, for a long time, has invested in hotels and airlines and entertainment. And these are all core sectors that are very important for Vision 2030 as they try to diversify away from oil and, become a tourist destination. And he's very useful for that. He's been a hotel investor for a really long time. He has relationships with Bill Gates and the Four Seasons management. And so you've seen a lot more domestic investment by Alwaleed in very specific projects.
Some of those projects include projects by none other than Elon Musk. And I was pretty taken by one of the things that he told you. He said to you in February, when you were having one of your Zoom calls, Musk is de facto vice president and running the show in Washington.
Yes, and he was saying that in the context of talking about the value of X at that point, because we're all looking at X and thinking, gosh, its value has kind of really fallen, since Elon took it private, and we saw so many advertisers flee. That had a big impact. It was roughly $44 billion gross valuation when he bought it. Alwaleed's had tremendous conviction that it was worth more than that. So one of the first things he said to me was like, hey, this is a valuable entity, and you can't say that it's not. Look at where Elon Musk is now.
Okay.
It, speaks for itself.
I mean, how close are they? Do we know? Like, it's obviously there's investment connections and a relationship, but I mean, how close are they?
I mean, he told me they speak every week. They didn't know each other until 2022.
Yeah.
Alwaleed was a longtime investor in Twitter before it was even a public company, and he didn't really know Musk until Musk stepped in to buy it. But Alwaleed totally immediately threw his hat in the ring, said, I'm in, I'm going to roll my stake over. Let's do this. So that meant a lot to Musk. And he said they speak regularly.
Why do this story now?
Because it was so marked, like after so many years of him being quiet, all of a sudden he is taken to the airwaves in a way that we haven't seen in so long. And it really was reminiscent of the Alwaleed we used to know. Just this big, colorful guy with some very important differences.
What's his relationship with the president?
So he is a supporter. He has a long history with him, actually, in this time in the 80s and 90s, go Wall Street, when Trump was mired in debt in the early 90s. Alwaleed kind of bailed him out. He bought his yacht, which he still owns. A few years later, Trump's still in debt, and Alwaleed and another Singaporean billionaire bought his stake in the plaza. So he says, he loves to say that I know how to negotiate with Trump. I know what he's doing. I've dealt with him before with the tariffs, for example. When Trump was running for president in 2016, or the run up to that, he had his Muslim ban. Prince Alwaleed was not a fan of that. They actually sparred on Twitter. But very quick, they papered things over. He's very happy with his treatment of the Arab world.